The collapse of the Morbi Bridge, it wasn't just some freak accident. This was a tragedy that was made, not born. It's a story of greed, of unbelievable negligence, and it's one we absolutely have to understand. So let's get right into it.
All right, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's Morbi, Gujarat. The date is October 30th, 2022. The whole area is still buzzing from Diwali celebrations. Families are out, they're having a good time, enjoying the holiday, and a lot of them are on this famous old bridge that had, get this, just reopened only 4 days before.
So as the afternoon turns to evening, around 5:30 p.m., the crowd on this suspension bridge, they call it the Juto Pool, the swinging bridge, it just starts to swell. You can imagine it, right? People are taking pictures, just soaking in the evening, with absolutely no idea of the disaster that was literally building right under their feet. And you have to understand, this wasn't just some run-of-the-mill bridge. We're talking about a 143-year-old structure, a real engineering marvel from its time. But here's the thing, even marvels have their limits, and this bridge had a very, very clear line that you just don't cross when it comes to safety. And that limit? It was just 125 people. That's it. That was the absolute maximum number of people it was ever designed to hold safely. 125. Keep that number locked in your head, because it's crucial. But on that fateful day, nobody was paying attention to that limit. They were just selling tickets, one after another, with zero crowd control. That safety number, it wasn't just ignored, it was completely blown past. The bridge was absolutely packed, just shoulder to shoulder with people. So how many people were on it? The estimates say around 500. 500 people. That's 4 times its official capacity. And then it happened. A loud, sickening crack. One of the main cables, which was horribly rusted, just snapped. In an instant, a celebration turned into an absolute nightmare. The bridge just gave way, and hundreds of people plunged into the river below. So the big question is, how on earth could this happen? To really get to the bottom of it, we need to rewind a bit. We have to look at the bridge's incredible history and then the terrible deal that betrayed that legacy and sealed its fate. I mean, for over 140 years, this Jolto pole was a point of pride for Morbi. This thing was built to last. It even survived the massive Bhuj earthquake back in 2001 without a scratch. But then, in March of 2022, a decision was made to hand it over for renovation to the Oreva Group. And who are they? Well, they're famous for making clocks and watches. They had zero, and I mean zero, experience in engineering a bridge. As you can imagine, the public was furious. The outcry was instant. Everyone knew this wasn't some natural disaster. This was a man-made catastrophe, plain and simple, an avoidable tragedy that never, ever should have happened. So, in response, the government put together a special investigation team, an SIT, to figure out what went so terribly wrong. And what they found? Wow, it wasn't just one mistake. It was a complete avalanche of negligence. One failure piled on top of another. Let's just run through what the investigation uncovered because it's shocking. The main cables rusted right through, and they were never replaced during the renovation. The company just kept selling tickets, over 3,000 of them on that day alone. They opened the bridge to the public without a single fitness certificate or a load test. And to top it all off, no trained security, no lifeguards, not even a single rescue boat on standby. It's just unbelievable. But one of the most damning findings was about the so-called renovation itself. You see, the original bridge had a floor made of lightweight wooden planks. What did the new company do? They ripped those out and put in heavy aluminum sheets and metal mesh. This one change massively increased the weight of the entire structure, putting all this new, unbearable strain on those old corroded cables. It was a recipe for disaster. Well, with all this coming to light and public anger just boiling over, the courts decided to step in. This wasn't just a local issue anymore. The Gujarat High Court and then even the Supreme Court got involved, and they started demanding some real answers and accountability. And the High Court didn't mess around. They took up the case all on their own, just from reading the news. They looked at the contract given to Oreva, a document that was barely more than a single page long, handed out with no bidding process, and they tore it to shreds. The pressure from the court was immense. It led to the suspension of the municipal officer who signed that flimsy contract. And then the whole 52-member Morbi municipality was dissolved. Just gone. The courts also zeroed in on the money, the compensation for the victims' families. They looked at the first offers from the government and the company and basically said, nope, that's not good enough, not even close.
And that judicial pressure made a real difference. The government had offered 6 lakh rupees. Oreva initially offered 5, but the court stepped in and ordered Oreva to pay an interim compensation of 10 lakh rupees for every single person who died. This forced the company to put up over 14 crore rupees right away, a much more significant sum.
Okay, so the investigation is done. The municipality has been dissolved. Now the story moves into the courtroom. It's time for justice. The question became, who is actually going to be held criminally responsible for the loss of 141 lives? The police ended up arresting 10 people. Now, some of these were lower-level employees, ticket clerks, security guards. But, and this is the important part, the list also included managers and the big boss himself, Jaysukh Patel, the managing director of Oreva, who had actually disappeared for a while right after the collapse. So all 10 were charged with culpable homicide. It's a very serious charge. But here's the part that has been so painful and frustrating for the families of the victims. What happened next? Well, despite the gravity of it all, by the middle of 2024, every single one of the accused, from the ticket clerk all the way up to the managing director, was out on bail. And so that brings us to where we are today, with this big, lingering question. With 141 lives lost, is this what justice looks like? The trial is still crawling along. For the families who lost loved ones in those terrifying few seconds, the wait for a final verdict, for some sense of closure, just goes on. It really makes you wonder, when a tragedy is so obviously preventable, what does real justice, what does real accountability actually look like?